Hello, everyone.
Hey.
All right, continuing Happy Disastuary. It's almost over. My name is Louis Matos. I'm the Mustache, co-creator of the Mustache and The Beard.com. We're two gray geeks changing the world, one post at a time. Joining me today, as always, is my PIC, partner in crime, my buddy.
Hi, Junior Figueroa here, a.k.a. The Beard. And the reason why this is called the Mustache and the Beard, and not just the Mustache. Coming to you, still swinging from Earthquake Central, also known as Puerto Rico.
All right, good. So, as you saw on the title card, this is going to be our Autopsy number 7.
Number 7.
And
Lucky 7.
This is, we're going to be talking about the Towering Inferno.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, one of the...
hot time in the old town tonight.
Yeah. One of the top disaster movies of the 1970s. And probably of all time. So... is there anything you wanted to say about what we're going to be talking about today, or
we're going to be talking about the Towering Inferno?
Okay. So this is a disaster movie. The way we always do this, our autopsy videos, is we take the property apart, put it back together, and hope that there's something there that is worth taking a look at.
Right.
So this is a disaster movie produced by Irwin Allen, the godfather of disaster movies.
Poseidon Adventure, The Swarm, and so on.
Yes. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, right, was one of them?
Right. Well, prior to his stint as the king of disaster movies, he was primarily known as a TV producer. Well, he started out as a movie producer, then became known as a TV producer. He produced TV shows such as Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Lost in Space, Time Tunnel, Land of the Giants. In his time, he was probably a bigger and more successful sci-fi producer than Gene Roddenberry. And then in the 70s, he switched to feature films again, and starting with the Poseidon Adventure, and was doing disaster movies, highly successful disaster movies. And his crowning achievement is probably this movie, The Towering Inferno.
All right, and he didn't direct it. Directed by John Gillerman. However, go ahead.
A premier action director. Did tons of stuff, including 2 Tarzan movies, which are my personal favorites. Also, what is it, Bridge Too Far,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember.
A war movie, right?
Yeah, Bridge Too Far. Yeah, an all-star cast. It's one of those Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Robert Redford, George
However,
Clooney.
I thought you were going to tell them about the fact that even though he's a renowned director, in this movie, Irwin Allen
directed the action sequences, right. In this movie, Irwin Allen himself directed the action scenes.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting that this is a big guy. This is Robert Gilliman, was well known.
John Gilliman,
I'm sorry. Well known, and still, you could direct the movie, but, I want to direct the fun parts.
Well, usually in most films, the action sequences are usually done by the second unit director. What's interesting in this case is that it's not done by the second unit director, it's done by the producer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So, one of those interesting things about this movie.
A lot of interesting things about this movie.
And we'll talk about those. All right, so this is a joint venture between 20th Century Fox and, of course, Warner Brothers.
First time in history
it had ever happened.
Right. Not the last time, but it's the first time in history 2 studios got together to make one film.
Yeah, 2 Hollywood studios, big Hollywood studios. They're like, you know what? Let's, and there are some real reasons why that forced them into this, but we won't talk about those just yet. Written by Sterling Silliphant.
Right.
Adapted from 2 novels.
2 novels.
Right. The Tower by Richard Martinstein and Glass Inferno by Thomas N. Scortia and Frank M. Robinson.
The 2 studios got into a bidding war over Inferno, with one of them winning, obviously, and then the other studio went for the other novel, the Glass Tower, and I think they paid for the first one $400,000, and then
that is correct.
Damn,
it's like the mind.
The point was that Irwin Allen rightly knew that 2 disaster movies about a skyscraper on fire, released at the same time, they were going to cannibalize each other. They were going to eat each other up. And he's absolutely right, because later on in history, that's exactly what happened with Volcano and Dante's Peak. That they killed each other in the box office, both coming out at the same time and having the same subject matter, which is Volcano. So Irwin Allen was completely right in not wanting this to happen.
And proven by history.
So he convinced the 2 studios. Believe me, that's like, that was like getting 2 countries to sit down and iron out a peace treaty. He convinced these two studios to do a joint venture and share in the profits. Now, he had 2 stories, right? You had 2 separate stories, one for Inferno and one for the Glass Tower. They had to be married, okay? So when we say that Sterling Silliphant wrote the screenplay, this guy, I mean, he pulled off a miracle.
He had to weave them together.
He had to weave 2 stories, 2 entirely separate stories, and merge them and make it seamless. Because you couldn't. The viewing public doesn't want to know about this. They don't care. They're dishing out their money. They want to sit down and enjoy a movie. They don't care that it's 2 separate stories. They want one flow. And so he pulled it off. Amazingly, he pulled it off. Which is also why this movie has 2 leads. Okay? Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. Steve McQueen's character is the fire chief. Paul Newman's character is the architect who designed the building. The reason why there's 2 leads is it's 2 stories. But the thing is, I swear to you, you watch the movie, you don't get it. You don't see that
it's 2 different stories.
It's 2 stories.
Yeah, because other movies have done the same thing.
Right.
Had, 2, they're concurrent, simultaneous stories going on.
I mean, we talked about it all the time. Another Life, with one story taking place in space, another story taking place on the planet, on Earth, and then Geostorm, 2 brothers, one in the station, one on Earth. That happens. There are plenty of stories that way, and that's the way it seems when you watch Towering Inferno. But if you, like us, and you delve into the background, then you realize that the reason why it's actually like that is because it was 2 stories that got blended together, and the blending was seamless thanks to Sterling Silliphant.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna now go into characters, and then we'll talk about the plot. And then once we talk about the plot, we'll give you little ancillary things that are part of this movie.
There are a lot of fun ancillary things about this movie.
So the first character, like you mentioned, is Paul Newman. I put him first because his story is told to us first.
In the in the credits in the for the first time also, because Steve McQueen and Paul Newman were vying for top billing. What they did was that they put Steve McQueen's name first, but they put Paul Newman's name higher. So depending upon your point of view, whether you're reading from left to right or from up to down, because you know how the credits run. They actually run from top to bottom. You know, it scrolls up. So depending upon how you look at it, Steve McQueen's first name is first, or Paul Newman's name is first. That was the compromise. Now they've done that a lot since then. Movies do that a lot. But this was the first time this was ever done.
All right. They had a similar thing when they were doing Butch and Sundance. They had a similar issue, a little bit of so they had to, again, compromise the same way.
Well, in the original Butch and Sundance, Steve McQueen was supposed to play Sundance. And then he dropped out of it and was replaced by Robert Redford. But it was going to be that jockeying for position between Paul Newman and Steve McQueen. Obviously, these two guys know each other.
Yeah.
Obviously, they respect each other. There is a kind of
competition.
Competition, but it's sort of like a respectful competition, not one-upmanship, but sort of like you're in a race with the contender, so you're gonna have eye of the tiger and give it your all. So I get the impression that they were each giving it their all because of who the other one was.
Yeah. All right. So Paul Newman is Doug Roberts. He's the glass tower architect. So like the Beard said, he's his story is told first. And Steve McQueen is Michael O'Halloran. He is the San Francisco Fire Department's 5th Battalion chief. All right, so he's the chief of one of the stations. All right. So both of these guys play an important role, and again, there was this jockeying. Now, interestingly enough, you have William Holden, who is playing James Duncan, the builder.
Right, because Paul Newman's the designer. William Holden is the builder of the building.
Right, and so when he was contracted, he was like, I want to be top billing. And so there was this little thing, and immediately they said, no, we already have two people fighting over top billing.
No, let's face it, although William Holden is a star, at the time that this movie was released, Paul Newman and Steve McQueen were bigger stars. At one time in history, Steve McQueen was the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Okay, so that made him number one.
All right, so so he plays the builder, and he plays a pretty important role. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we could actually say right now he's the guy that kind of receives a lot of animosity because you think to yourself, when you build a building that is 138 stories tall, there should be some safety requirements being put on there. But when you're racing against the budget, sometimes you cut corners.
The building in this movie is it's in San Francisco, and it's called the Glass Tower, and it is supposed to be the tallest building in the world.
Yeah, at that time.
At that time, it's supposed to be the tallest building in the world.
138 stories. So yeah. Then another pretty important character is Richard Chamberlain. He plays Roger Simmons. He's the electrical engineer. He is also Duncan's son-in-law. Yeah. All right.
He's the son-in-law.
Yeah. So he's the son-in-law. He's also an electrical engineer. He's an electrical contractor. So he's the one was responsible.
He's the one that cut the corners.
He cut corners.
He's the bad guy.
But according to a little later on, we find out that James Duncan told him, "Listen, we need we need to be under budget, not over budget. So where can we cut corners?
So he didn't actually tell his son-in-law to cut the corners in the safety features. He simply said we needed to cut corners. And the son-in-law is the one who takes it upon himself to, because Paul Newman's character is the architect, realizing that the building is so tall, designed it with extra safety features because of that, of the fact that it's so tall. He didn't go with the standard safety features. He went beyond the standard safety features. But what Richard Chamberlain did was he cut corners by going just up to the safety features. So it would pass inspection. The building passed inspection, right, but it wasn't according to Paul Newman's specs. And he did it that way because he knew that it being so tall, it was going to need more than standard, than typical. And he was right.
Clearly.
All
right, so then we have Susan Blakely. She's not as a major character, but because she plays Patty Duncan Simmons, she's the daughter to James Duncan and the wife to Roger Simmons.
Which is why Richard Chamberlain is the son-in-law, because he's married to her.
Yeah, and he's the bad guy in this because listen, if you would have done we wouldn't have had this problem.
No, what makes him the bad guy is that he's totally unapologetic about it.
Correct.
Okay?
It's like, you told me to do it, and so I did it.
It's one thing to say I did it, and then say, I
messed up.
I messed up. I'm sorry. But for him to say, yes, so I messed up. So what?
You asked me to change the.
And people are going to die. Yeah, and people die every day.
Yeah, a little bit aloof when he should be a little bit more of
And he doesn't get any better as the movie progresses.
Yeah.
He does not get any better.
All right, Faye Dunaway is
Faye Dunaway.
Susan Franklin. She's Doug Roberts' fiancée, and you get a sense that she works with the building, doesn't she? She doesn't work.
No, I think she's a magazine.
She's a magazine. All right, so.
Yeah, what's interesting is that she's with Paul Newman in this movie, and after having been with Steve McQueen in the Thomas Crown Affair. Playing the field, are we?
All right, so then Faye Dunaway. Just listen.
God, Faye
talking
Dunaway.
About an award-winning actress.
All she ever does is get more beautiful. That's all she ever does. She just gets better.
All right. Going to the character still with Fred Astaire is one of the actors that this is a top-notch cast. Let me tell you that from the beginning.
But Fred Astaire ain't singing, ain't dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a dramatic role for him, which is outside of his usual. It's outside of his comfort zone.
Yeah, he plays Harley Claiborne, who is a con man who flirts with Mrs. Mueller. Interestingly enough, he gets his only Academy Award nomination is for this movie.
Right. Although he didn't win, he did win a BAFTA and a Golden Globe.
Yeah. Jesus, right off the top of your head. Me, I got to do hours of research, and he's got this all done. All right. Now, Mrs. Mueller is played by Jennifer Jones.
And she's looking good in this movie because she's supposed to be like Fred Astaire's age. Damn, man, she looks young compared to him.
Yeah, she's supposed to be in her 60s, and let me tell you,
she is looking hot.
Yeah, she's a lovely lady.
That's a bad pun for Towering Inferno. She's looking hot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. She's really cool.
All right.
That was a slip of the tongue there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Jennifer Jones, and this is her last movie.
Yeah, last movie that she ever made.
Even though she lived till 90, but she decided to leave Hollywood.
She got out while the getting was good. She got out on top.
Yeah. All right. A next character that we should talk about is O.J. Simpson.
Well, understand that there are a lot of characters,
Yeah.
okay? Because this is a disaster movie, and disaster movies have all-star casts. And we have OJ here.
Yeah. O.J. Simpson plays Harry Jennigan, Chief Building Security. All right, so he is the Chief of Building Security. Listen, we see lots of people behaving heroically, like we always said. Excuse me. We have people that are normal, everyday people.
Everyday people who rise to the occasion.
Rise to the occasion. And then we also see the flip side of that.
Right. People who, instead of rising to the occasion, we see their foul side, their bad side.
All right, so
OJ is one that he rises to the occasion. His character rises to the occasion.
With the responsibility of being chief of security for the building, listen, he doesn't send people to. He goes, I'll
yeah, you noticed that too, right? Yeah. That he said, "I'll do it," you know, and he goes and he does it himself.
All right, Robert Wagner is in this movie.
Small part.
He is Dan Bigelow, public relations officer for the Glass Tower building. So he's the PR for this building, and he is having an office affair
with his secretary.
Yeah,
and she's
like the most beautiful woman in this thing, and she's not fully dressed throughout most of the movie.
Yeah, because while everybody else is up at the party up on the roof of the Glass Tower, he's
partying.
He's partying with his secretary. They're knocking boots.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things I was telling you, it's like, well, we'll talk about... No, I think I'm going to talk about it right now. Listen, there's this one part where, you know, they're accosted by the fire. And they realize that while they've been... The fire has taken over their floor.
Yeah.
And
they're trapped.
And any normal person would get dressed.
She doesn't.
I guess in the script, they didn't say... They said, stay naked. I mean, not that she's naked, but...
She's wearing his shirt.
Yeah. Listen, I'm like, the first thing I would do is at least put on shoes. And they didn't even let her do that. All right, so yeah, so that was all my little comment.
That was a little cheesecake
for the viewer.
For us.
The male viewer.
Audience, for the male viewers. There's a little cheesecake there.
Yeah. Robert Vaughn is in this movie. He is the U.S. Senator Gary Parker.
One of my favorite actors. Oh my God, underrated actor. And he often plays politicians. You know why he also often plays politicians? He has a master's degree in political science.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he had a master's degree in political science. And after he got his degree, they kept hitting him to play senators and congressmen. And
usually he plays evil.
Right.
Evil people.
Right.
But here in this movie, listen,
him and
the mayor, Jack Collins.
Him and Robert Vaughn and Steve McQueen go way back.
Oh, really?
Well, because they're both in the Magnificent Seven together, right?
That's true.
And because of that way back, there's a lot of movies with they're together. For example, again, he plays a politician in Bullet, which stars Steve McQueen. Because of that, they go way. The two of them go way back.
Okay. All right. So, and also another politician that is in this is Jack Collins, the mayor.
The mayor.
Robert Bob Ramsey. All right. And one of the great things is that, you know, usually politicians are not played well in these types of movies.
Wow.
This one, they break the mold and change that.
The senator and the mayor rise to the occasion. Those are two characters who rise to the occasion. Usually, we're treated to politicians who are sniveling cowards
and slimy and weasels
and selfish, you know, and simply worried about themselves. No, not in this movie. In this movie, these two guys are heroic, and you know who's heroic also? The mayor's wife. The mayor's wife. She's an older woman, you know. I was really the way she so selfless. She was so selfless. I can see why this guy got elected. You know.
Yeah, they draw lots. You know, when they're gonna, they're supposed to be evacuated. They draw lots. The women are gonna go first, and you know she draws one of the first lots, and she was gonna concede one of her spots.
Yeah, she was. She didn't want to go.
Yeah, listen. You know, and everybody's like, I'll take that. I'll take that. And the mayor's like, no, you're going. You know,
she wanted to stay with her husband.
Yeah.
Even though she had been talking about how worried she was about their kids, she still was going to stay and let somebody else go. Man, I'd vote for the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and she's like, the kids don't even know where the key to the lockbox. What is it?
To
the bank vault, box. You know, so the security deposit box. You know,
right, the deposit box.
Yeah,
they don't even know where the key is.
And so she's worried about that. And here is an opportunity for you to go. And she's like, somebody else take it. I'm going to stay here. I'm like, no. The husband is like, no, you're going. You know, awesome. All right, so we have Gregory Sierra, Carlos the bartender. You know, he plays a small part, but kind of an important part in the sense that he acquires, he knows how to acquire vintage wines, you know. So yeah, it's a little. Remember, I talk about campfire, the story within a story. Well, this is one of those story within a story kind of things. Dabney Coleman plays a small part. He's the deputy chief who convinces Steve McQueen that they need to do drastic measures to fight this fire.
Well, the whole a disaster movie of this type is very similar to the old style serials from the 1930s and 40s, in which the hero or heroes keep getting into a predicament in which they have to, a cliffhanger, and then another cliffhanger, and another cliffhanger, and another cliffhanger. That's how disaster movies are often are. And so what we have in this case is we have two leads, so they constantly, just when they get out of one mess, another mess appears, and then another mess until finally the matter is resolved. Of course, in a disaster movie, sometimes the matter is resolved by everybody dying, but eventually it does get resolved.
All right, last three characters I want to talk about are again part of the side story. Carol McAvoy is Mrs. Albright. She's a deaf resident of the Glass Tower.
So she doesn't hear the alarms, she doesn't hear the warnings or anything.
And she has two children. All right, Carlena Gower, who plays Angela Albright. You know, a really cute little girl who is, very alert. Whereas her brother, played by Mike Lookinland.
Yes, the Brady Bunch.
Yes.
The Brady Bunch.
The youngest, Bobby, right? Bobby is so of the Brady Bunch. He is Philip Albright, and he's a little more. He wears headphones all the time,
so he don't hear the alarm.
He doesn't hear anything. So of course,
they get trapped. They get trapped.
And so so they are part of the Save the Cat.
The part of the cliffhangers.
Yes. Okay. So with that having been said, let's.
I just want to point out one thing. The scene with the outdoor elevator. No, not. I'm sorry. The scene where the fireman, the rookie fireman, is afraid to rappel down. That rookie fireman was Paul Newman's son.
Yeah, I have that there. I have that listed. And Irwin Allen's wife is in this too.
Yes. Well, she appears in a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
She's in the Poseidon Adventure also.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. You want to go tell the story?
Yeah, but I think we're going to have to tell it. you can't tell the story step by step because there's so much going. It's almost 3 hours.
It is.
movie.
Yeah, it's
It's
2 hours and 40 minutes is a long time.
Now the reason for that, of course, is like we said, they're melding two stories together. So it's a long movie. Don't get me wrong. At no time does this movie drag. It does not drag at all. It is, it is quick. Every scene is either moving the story forward or characterization. That we know who the characters are.
Yep.
Every scene. There is no fat. It's all meat in this movie. But it is 3 hours, and a lot goes on. So I don't think we should go into too much detail.
Okay.
Except to say that to set it up, Paul Newman is the architect of the world's tallest building, and so he arrives, and they're having a party, right? Naturally, and
it's the opening
of the building.
Now the building, people have already moved in. So
people have already moved in, but this is just. This is the opening part of the gala, with the ribbon cutting, the whole shebang. Naturally, which is why you get the mayor there and you get the senator.
All kind of all trying to get credit part of it, It's like
so what happens is that little things. Now the people are moving in, so now they're turning everything on, and as they're turning everything on, little things are starting to go wrong because of the cutting the corners. So a transformer blows out, or wires melt. All these little things which is alarming Paul Newman, and so he goes and he checks the specs and discovers that the specs are not up to snuff.
Because wait a second, I said this type of wire, and you got different type of wire. What's that?
So who did it? Richard Chamberlain. Where's Richard Chamberlain? Nobody knows. So Paul Newman, being a man of action, gets into his car and drives to his house. Right? Meanwhile, on the 81st floor, a small fire gets started. Nobody knows it. Nobody realizes it. It's in a storeroom. So
that doesn't have any alarm or anything like that.
Alarm or anything, right? So
that wouldn't happen nowadays, or it shouldn't.
Because nowadays they all saw the Towering Inferno. So he gets to the house. He has a confrontation with Richard Chamberlain, right? Paul Newman is pissed, and he finds it unable to celebrate. He is unable. William Holden keeps telling him to change into a tuxedo and come up to the party. He can't do it. So the fire escalates, and eventually it spreads. Now the fire is on the 81st floor. This is a 138-story building. The party, which has, I think they said 300 people. There's 300 people. Not counting the residents of the building. There's 300 people on the roof. And this is on the 81st floor. Understand that the fires spread in two directions. They spread this way, and they spread this way. So you're saying that it's going to take the entire, eventually, it's going to take the entire 81st floor as it continues to go up. Now, how do you get those people out of there? That's what the movie is about. Once they know there's a fire, the fire department gets called in, and now we're introduced to Steve McQueen's character as the fire chief.
The fire starts 15 minutes into the movie.
Remember what we said. There's no waste of time. The fire starts on a small scale, but there's a ticking clock. because as we cut to other scenes, they cut back to the fire, and the fire has gotten bigger. And then we cut to other scenes, and we see people arguing, you can't have a fire like that in this building, and you cut back, and the fire has gotten bigger. So this fire is driving the suspense.
Mm-hmm.
Once the fire gets out of hand, the suspense now is it's spreading, and it's going to spread up.
Are they going to get out of there?
Are they going to get out of there? So in saving people, for example, the lady, the deaf lady, in saving people, in fighting the fire, in trying to get people down from the roof, in doing all those things, this is cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger for both Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. Now, in the case of Steve McQueen, as a fire chief, that's his job. But Paul Newman is our everyman. Every man is a hero.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy who he rises to the occasion, and he acts like an action hero, and he's just an architect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's thanks to these two that if the day is going to be saved, it's going to be thanks to these two. Now, often, Steve McQueen is being heroic on his own over here, while Paul Newman is being heroic on his own over here. But occasionally, they wind up being heroic together, mm-hmm. including with the climax. Again, I don't want to give too much of the action away. I don't want.
No, right. In a story like this, we can't tell you too much. I mean, listen, I could tell you a story, and then there's so much more.
Yeah, because that's the way it goes. It goes. There's a love story going on between Fred Astaire and Jennifer Jones, right? There's the drama going on between Richard Chamberlain and
his father-in-law, and then his wife.
And his wife. There's the drama going on between Robert Wagner and his secretary trapped in his office, mm-hmm. right? There's all the and there's people that
and O.J. Simpson is trying to, as the security director, is trying to get everybody out of the building.
And there's people getting hurt as the fire spreads. Some people do not know, for example, that if a room is on fire, do not open the door. If you open the door, the fire explodes because of the influx of oxygen. Mm-hmm. The fire explodes out. Guy comes, goes to this is a major thing in which the fire spreads. The guy comes and opens the door. Another guy gets caught on fire, eventually dies, mm-hmm. and the fire spreads. So there's all these little vignettes and, mm-hmm. and all this drama and action that's going on, and it's quick. Oh man, fast. But just when you got over one cliffhanger, then another cliffhanger comes. And what they make that poor Steve McQueen go through in this movie, mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah,
absolutely, I agree with you. It's one of the things that I was like, wow, this is like, there is no lag. There is very little time to reflect on something that happened before, or it's just like, no, we took care of that. Let's move on to the next issue. So it was really quick-paced movie, despite the fact that it was a close to 3-hour movie.
It was time well spent.
All right. So, is there anything else you wanted to say so that we can move on to other things I have written down?
Go ahead.
All right. I have that this is a John Williams score. The music.
John Williams.
Yeah.
If
every geek better know John Williams.
Every geek knows John Williams.
Star Wars.
Da, 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 da.
All the Jaws movies.
Da, 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 da.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Schindler's List. Superman. The Superman movies.
Which is what I was just singing.
Yeah. the Indiana Jones movies. Yeah, the Home Alone movies, the Harry Potter movies, the Jurassic Park. Do you get a theme here? That like all the best stuff is done by him?
No, and also it's the come on, let's face it. It's the themes that stick with you. Like I was humming Superman. You know what I'm talking about. If I go, dun, 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 come on, you know it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
If I do Jurassic Park, you're going to know it's Jurassic Park. It's like all those themes that stick with you.
Dun, 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 dun. Like, you know that's not
You
Jaws.
You know it. And it all lies at the feet of this one man.
Yeah, it was one composer. Absolutely. And so, you know, hot properties, you're going to go to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's see.
A little story.
Okay, go ahead.
I was sitting in front of my patio in Florida, my apartment in Florida. I was sitting on my patio talking to Christopher, and I said, Christopher, what movie is this? I went, dun, 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 and my next door neighbor went, Indiana Jones! My next door neighbor said, Indiana Jones!
You beat Chris to it.
So I said, yeah, that's right. So I actually invited him over, and we stayed there talking, and that's what we did that evening. We sat there testing each other's knowledge on theme song, on theme music.
All right, cool. I want to give a couple of things about reception, and then we'll go into our ratings and recommendations. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so reception for this movie. This movie the budget was $14.3 million. All right, which is a lot. It's a huge budget.
1974,
Yeah.
Huge budget.
The movie has made $200 million. All right, so it more than made up its money. Now, more famous reviewers than us. Roger Ebert
But not better.
I said more famous.
I'm just saying, but not better.
No, and there's going to be a little mocking here, so it's our show, so we could do whatever.
That's right.
All right, so Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times, gave 3 out of 4 stars and called this the best of the 70s disaster movies. Okay. All right, so not to mock him, but his partner, Gene Siskel from the Chicago Tribune, gave it a 2.5 out of 4 stars and called it a stunt, not a story. All right, and he complained that there was not a lot of characterization. Listen.
I take exception to that.
Yeah, of course you would.
I take exception to that.
So you want to react first? I already have prepared my reaction. You talk about your reaction.
Well, basically, I think you should take his head out from out of his ass and stop being an elitist prig and actually watch movies the way real people do.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Yeah, that's one of my issues with him. Ebert is a little more flexible. Will actually watch a horror movie and try to enjoy it. Listen, whereas Siskel, God bless you. You know, I know you're with the angels now, but Lord have mercy.
We're talking 1974.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that. And so, do you want to go into your ratings and recommendations?
Well, one thing I want to say though is that this movie was the highest grossing movie for 1974. Right? It was up for multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Right? And
it didn't win any of those.
Didn't win.
It didn't win any of them.
Saying it got nominated. Hey, a disaster movie getting nominated for Best Picture. Wow! Well, the nomination alone is an award in itself. So we're talking, and this is Irwin Allen's masterpiece. Okay, he went on to do plenty more movies, disaster movies, The Swarm, for example. But this was his masterpiece. He really, and I think from the background information we told you, you can really tell that this really was his baby.
Mm-hmm.
He really pulled it off. And so he deserves whatever accolades he's gotten for this movie. I believe he deserves it. That's it. You wanna rate it?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna tell you that the things that I always rate: characterization. Listen, there are a lot of characters, so you don't get a tremendous amount of depth to all of the characters, but you do get story. All right, and in the story, you get to feel you do feel for some characters. You don't feel for all of them because listen, you saw the cast. You can't go, and as it is, it's 3 hours and it's mostly there's very little exposition in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
and what little exposition there is in the beginning, setting up the movie.
I tell you, the fire starts 15 minutes into the movie. So that's the exposition. That's it. That's the exposition. The rest is all action. It's all stunts. It's all
danger.
It's all this high tension stuff. The effects are all practical. Practical effects. So of course the budget is huge. You're talking about you're talking about the melding of two different stories and making them seamlessly into one.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
there are two main characters, and they're often doing two different things, and then occasionally they come together and they have to do this one thing together. And listen, it works. It is absolutely well done. Let's see, what the cinematography is great. I told you the score is done by John Williams. I mean, and what is there to complain about this movie? It's other than it's long. You know what? I was mesmerized for 3 hours. All right? There was a point near the end and I'm like, I can't, this is incredible.
All right. Well, you pointed out, you said, wow, we've been it's been more than 2 hours. And the movie's still going great.
Yeah, and it captivates you. All right, so the fact that this movie was in the 70s, in the heyday of disaster movies, and that an audience of today can watch this and still be captivated by the practical effects. Yeah, the fire is not CGI fire,
right,
boys and girls.
Right.
This is real fire.
Before CGI. These are not visual effects. This is real special effects. This is done by engineers. This is done by hand.
Mm-hmm. So there is very little to complain about. So to the people that are giving it less than 4 stars for them, for us 5 Grey Geeks, let me tell you, I give this 5 Grey Geeks happily because those 3 hours that I spent, listen, we knew that when we were talking about disaster movies, we said the Towering Inferno has to be one of them. Mm-hmm. You said Meteor has to be one of them because it has your guy. Mm-hmm. But listen, Towering Inferno has to be at the top of what you consider a disaster movie.
Yeah, any list.
Even for today. Right. All right, so comparing it to Geostorm is lacking in comparison to this movie. Mm-hmm. All right, so I say 5 Grey Geeks. I say you really, if you want to check out a disaster movie, if you only watch one for this entire month, this is the one that you should watch. All right, and you can get this free on cable. I mean, on online at any time.
Online movie sites.
All right, so there's no excuse to not watch this movie. I wholeheartedly recommend it. I don't think that there should be any complaints at all. Again, we told you the characters behaving heroically. I was impressed by the mayor and the senator because they a lot of times are confused by the fact that, oh, well, I'm a senator, oh, I'm a mayor, so I should go first. And you don't get that in this movie.
Instead, they show us the mayor, the senator, the mayor's wife, doing crowd control, right? Helping the other people. If they have to line up for an elevator, they were helping the other people to line up for the elevator. If they needed, they were there. They were there. They were working. They were working to save the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Whereas Richard Chamberlain
was working to save himself.
Yes, he is horrible. Oh my God. And because, again, in the formula for disaster movies, you need that one guy that you're like, ugh.
Yes. Because in disaster movies, often the disaster is the villain. The twister, the volcano is the villain. But you need a character in order to vent, in order to boo and hiss at. Richard Chamberlain is that character in this movie.
Yeah. I think that's all I have to say. Are you?
Well, the way I generally approach this is I usually start out with giving a movie five Grey Geeks, and then eliminating as I think about the movie and think about the shortcomings that the movie has. I will take away a half a Grey Geek or a whole Grey Geek, depending upon the things that I think were done badly or done wrong. So in this particular case, I have to say, since I think Towering Inferno is perfect, I cannot subtract anything, and therefore it gets my 5 Grey Geeks, my whole 5 Grey Geeks. And not only does it get my 5, but it gets my wholehearted recommendation. Please watch this movie. If you've never seen it, you're in for a thrill. If you've seen it before but haven't seen it in years, I hadn't seen it since it came out. Okay? Which means I hadn't seen it since 1974. I remember loving it. And so when we said we were going to do disaster movies, I said we got to do Towering Inferno. But then when we sat down to watch this, I was blown away by just how good it is, especially when you look at the other disaster movies of its time. It stands out. And so if you've seen it before but haven't seen it in years, watch it. You're going to love it. And if you're not into disaster movies, watch it anyway. It's a great drama. It's a great action movie. If you like ensemble cast, watch it. There is no reason not to watch it, except that it's 3 hours long. And what the hell? You watched Titanic, didn't you? So watch the Towering Inferno. What the hell's the matter with you? Anyway, that's my point.
So, as you can see, we both give it a wholehearted recommendation of 5 great geeks. And so we were really excited. And so we're going to, I guess... With that having been said, there's a moment in time when you're bored, you got some time to kill, you should probably check this out. All right, so this is...
Or any of our other recommendations.
Yes, we have lots of recommendations. Twitter. My Twitter is here on this CAPT, Yale, Talent. All right, I'm not going to make any more jokes about my Twitter. All right, so our website is themustacheandthebeard.com.
And I've been putting a lot of work into it. Go check it out.
Right, this is now the Mustache and the Beard, the Facebook page that he also has been putting a lot of work on. He's put some more articles on there, some really cool news, science news. And our email, if you want to contact us, you have our mustacheandbeard@gmail.com. Feel free to talk to us again.
Anytime.
Yeah. Feel free to comment on our site.
Give us suggestions. Tell us how to improve.
Yes. My name is Louis Matos. I'm the Mustache.
I'm Junior Figueroa. I'm the Beard.
Thank you for listening to us. So
Thank you for putting up with us. Thank you for loving us.
all right. So I say, see you later.
Hasta la vista.
Take it easy and
Peace.